First,
I need to see some identification. Now.
I'm standing on my own front porch. Why would I need to show you identification?
We received a call about a possible break-in at this address.
A break-in? Let me guess. Someone saw a black woman and assumed I was committing a crime.
Maybe. Now show me your ID.
All right, today we're going to break down a really powerful encounter that honestly turned into a viral masterclass on racial profiling and the Fourth Amendment. And it all kicked off with just one simple but incredibly loaded request on a front porch. Okay, just picture this for a second. You're standing on your own front porch, maybe just getting home. You've got your key in your hand, and then you hear those words from a police officer. Well, that's exactly where our story kicks off.
So the scene is a quiet, pretty affluent neighborhood in Charlotte, North Carolina. But on this particular Thursday evening, all that quiet is about to be completely shattered by a pretty unexpected visit from the police.
So it's 6:47 p.m. and Officer Ethan Caldwell pulls up to a house on Elwood Avenue. He's responding to a call, a suspicious person call. Someone thinks there might be a break-in. And this is the response from the woman on the porch. Just listen to how calm and logical she is. Right from the get-go, she's questioning the entire reason for this stop, pushing back on why he's even there in the first place.
But here's the thing. What Officer Caldwell has absolutely no idea about is that this woman, well, she is uniquely, and I mean uniquely, qualified to handle this exact situation. So let's talk about who she actually is.
Okay, so this is the Honorable Simone Garrett. And get this, she's a Duke grad, finished at the top of her class at law school, and she's been both a prosecutor and a defense attorney. But today, she's a North Carolina Circuit Court judge. She literally presides over criminal cases. Yeah, including ones that involve police misconduct. And you know, just to put her status into perspective, as a judge, she's making about $140,000 a year. So she's a well-established member of her community, the very same community where she's now being treated like a criminal on her own porch. And this is absolutely crucial to understand. This confrontation, it wasn't some random one-off thing. Judge Garrett had a whole history of being profiled, right in her own neighborhood. I mean, think about that. Constantly having to prove that you belong in the place you call home.
So the stage is set, right? This is way more than just a conversation on a porch. It's a real-time legal showdown. You've got the Fourth Amendment and a citizen's constitutional rights on one side, and an officer's assumptions on the other.
And right here, Judge Garrett just lays it all out perfectly. She calmly states the law, and then she calls it exactly what it is, pinpointing the real reason for the call, her race. She isn't just defending herself, you guys. She's literally teaching a constitutional law class on her front porch.
Okay, so she brought up a really important legal term there, reasonable suspicion. What does that actually mean? Well, let's break it down because it's the entire legal justification for a police stop.
So here's the bottom line. An officer needs specific, articulable facts. In other words, they need a real, concrete reason to believe a crime is happening. It can't just be a hunch or a gut feeling. And let's be crystal clear, a black woman standing on her own porch, holding her own house key, that does not meet the standard, not even close. And then we get to the moment the whole thing just pivots. After Judge Garrett suggests the stop is really about her being a black woman in an affluent neighborhood, the officer says something back. Just 3 words, and they are absolutely stunning. Just, wow. The weight of that admission is just incredible. Maybe it does. He basically confirms, right there, that her race might be the very reason for his suspicion. And in doing so, he creates the perfect, irrefutable piece of evidence, with his own words recorded on his own body cam. Now you'd think after an admission like that, the officer might take a step back, right? Nope, he actually keeps escalating. He demands her ID and even threatens to detain her. And this is what leads to the climax of the whole story, where the power dynamic is about to get flipped on its head completely.
Yeah, he totally doubles down. He tells her, "Ma'am, if you don't show me ID, I'll have to detain you." He is just completely 100% unaware of who he's talking to and the massive mistake he's making.
And then she drops it. She just calmly delivers the one line that changes absolutely everything. She's not just some resident he's hassling. She's a judge in his county. You can just see the change. It's instant and it's dramatic. The demanding, confident cop just deflates. He becomes stunned, uncertain. His entire demeanor, his body language, his tone of voice, it all changes in a split second, the moment he realizes who he's been talking to.
And now that he knows who she is, she really drives the point home. She's basically saying, this isn't my opinion. This isn't an argument. This is a statement of legal fact from an expert in the field. She knows the law because enforcing it is literally her job.
So, what about the aftermath? The whole confrontation on the porch might be over, but for Judge Garrett, the work was just getting started. She didn't just walk inside and let it go. Oh no, she immediately started taking steps to make sure there was accountability.
And look how she did it. She took 3 incredibly precise, strategic steps. First, she found out who made the call. Second, she filed a formal complaint. And third, and this is so important, she requested all the evidence. The body cam footage, the neighbor's Ring camera, everything. This wasn't an emotional reaction. This was methodical. This was her legal training kicking in. And that evidence she collected? Man, was it damning. When she got the Ring doorbell footage from the neighbor who made the call, it caught him telling his wife that a black woman couldn't possibly live in that house. It's just a direct confirmation of the bias that started this whole mess.
So, what were the consequences of all this? Well, they were huge. Officer Caldwell lost his job, and the city ended up paying out a settlement of over $300,000 because of his actions. This whole thing became this massive viral teaching moment about just how important it is to know your rights. You see, in the end, Judge Garrett's best defense, her ultimate protection, was her deep understanding of the law. Her story is such a powerful reminder that knowledge really is power. And it leaves all of us with a really important question to think about. If you were in a situation like this, would you know your rights?
It all started on a front porch. A judge home from a workout and a police officer. What happened next was an 11-minute standoff over our constitutional rights that would ignite a legal firestorm, expose a deep pattern of bias, and, believe it or not, force an entire city to change the way it polices. And it all began with just 4 words. Spoken by a neighbor on a call to the police, they pretty much revealed everything you need to know about the bias that set this whole incredible story in motion. Because let me tell you, this isn't just a story about a tense argument. It's about how one single, seemingly routine encounter, all captured on camera, could challenge and ultimately reshape an entire police department. So let's set the scene. It all kicked off on what seemed like a totally ordinary Thursday evening. So picture this. Judge Simone Garrett is on her own property. Keys in her hand, just trying to get into her house. That's when Officer Ethan Caldwell pulls up. He's there because of that neighbor's suspicious person call. He sees a woman on her own porch with no signs of a break-in, just a resident at her own home. And this is where it all goes sideways. The officer demands she prove she lives there, show him some ID. But Judge Garrett, who happens to be a circuit court judge, knew her rights inside and out. She calmly refused, explaining that without any reasonable suspicion that a crime was happening, his demand was a clear violation of her Fourth Amendment rights. Well, Judge Garrett filed a formal complaint, as you might imagine, and what the police department's own internal investigation uncovered was, wow. It was so much bigger than just one stop. It revealed a really clear and disturbing pattern. Investigators started digging. They pulled Officer Caldwell's records. And over a 2-year period, they found he had initiated 87 stops or welfare checks in the city's wealthiest, mostly white neighborhoods. But here's the thing. The key wasn't the number of stops, it was who he was stopping. And this slide right here, it reveals a truly dramatic gap. Of those 87 stops, a staggering 82% involved people of color. Now remember, this is in neighborhoods where the minority population was less than 15%. I mean, the data was just undeniable. Now, to really understand why this is such a huge deal, you need to get this legal standard: reasonable suspicion. It means an officer has to have specific, actual facts to justify stopping someone. It can't just be a hunch, and it most certainly cannot be based on someone's race. And this is the moment that blew the case wide open. It's all on his own body camera. Judge Garrett tells him that being a black woman in a wealthy area isn't reasonable suspicion. And Officer Caldwell replies with 3 little words: maybe it does. You know, the department's own internal affairs captain looked at that footage and knew exactly what he was seeing. He literally called it a confession, an admission on video that race was the real reason for the stop. So Judge Garrett didn't just stop with a complaint. Oh no, she took this irrefutable video and all that damning data and used it to build a powerful federal lawsuit. Her legal team presented this incredible trifecta of evidence. You had the neighbor's biased call caught on the Ring camera, the officer's own stop data proving a clear pattern, and then the knockout punch, his omission on his own body cam. It was pretty much an open and shut case. And the lawsuit wasn't just against Officer Caldwell. It targeted the entire department. The argument was that this was a systemic failure. It claimed the department had failed to track, address, and correct a really obvious pattern of racial profiling by its own officers. So when you're faced with that kind of overwhelming evidence, what do? The city's lawyers knew they were beat and pushed for a swift settlement. But for Judge Garrett, this victory was never just about the money. It was about forcing real foundational change. And you know what? That change came remarkably fast. It only took a matter of weeks to go from that encounter on the porch to a finalized settlement, which is just a testament to how incredibly powerful her evidence was. The settlement's true impact can be seen right here in these sweeping reforms. We're talking mandatory bias training for every single officer, a public database for accountability, an early warning system to flag problematic officers, and a brand new civilian review board. And get this, her encounter is now required viewing for every officer in training. But the story doesn't end there. The case had this lasting ripple effect that went far, far beyond the police department and the courtroom. Judge Garrett took $250,000 of her settlement and put it right back into the community. She established a legal defense fund for other people whose rights were violated, but who just couldn't afford to fight back. And the impact was immediate and so tangible. In just its first 3 years, that fund provided legal aid to 47 people, individuals who now had a chance at justice, all because of what happened on that porch. In an interview, Judge Garrett said something that just captured the heart of the issue and went viral. I shouldn't have to be a judge for my rights to matter. Her point was so clear. Constitutional rights aren't a privilege for the educated or the wealthy. They are for every single one of us. And it leaves us with a really critical question. I mean, Judge Garrett had the knowledge, the position, and the resources to fight for justice. But her story forces us to ask, how do we build systems of accountability that protect everyone's rights, especially those who can't protect themselves?